Hello everybody. So today we want to get some practice drawing the mannequin. Now this is the type of thing where I know I talk about how simple the mannequin really is, but to actually get good at this you need to spend a lot of time practicing it. Now today I'm going to have you do 10 drawings, but in reality if you want to actually get good at drawing characters out of your head, you should be doing this type of thing hundreds and hundreds of times. Really, the artists at the top of the field today, they are continually practicing at these type of skills to get better and better. And the human figure, as I said, I'm trying to simplify it, but at the end of the day, it is a complicated form. And even those artists at the top of the field use models or references. Really, the best thing for you to do is to do figure drawing classes, go to a live figure drawing workshop of some sort, and every single week you should be practicing this over and over again and really studying the human figure. Now, not just doing these exercises for the sake of doing it, but really trying to put that effort into trying to understand and get as good as possible as you can at this. Now, if you can't get a live model, the next best thing is references. And all the top artists use references when posing their characters in some way, whether or not it's a model they hire to photograph or themselves they photograph, or even just standing in front of a mirror and really looking at poses. Having some sort of reference is really the best way to get the most accurate figure. And references are not always perfect, so that's why having a strong understanding of how the figure works is going to be the best thing for you, because then you can work with references that aren't great, poses that aren't the best, and you can learn how to improve them and make them better. So for this exercise, the first step is to find references. Now, I want you to find references of 10 people in motion. And I want to have a mix of men and women, so I'd say half men, half women, 5 of each. And really try to get dynamic poses. I want them to be in motion, having fun, doing exciting things. Because that's just going to give you the most to work with. Drawing someone standing is not super exciting. Also, I just want you to make sure you think about what they're wearing, because clothing can distract from what's underneath sometimes, and we're trying to draw the mannequin, which is basically the skeletal structure. So don't choose photos of someone having a lot of clothing on. Really try to choose something that the clothes is really thin, or they're wearing something that's pretty skin tight, so that you can really see the structure itself. If you pick someone in a ski outfit or a wedding dress or something like that, you can't see what's happening underneath. It gets a lot harder. So really try to pick ones where there's minimal clothing happening, enough so you can see the structure that is happening beneath. So these are the references that I picked. I got a few extras down here, narrowed it down to the 10 that I liked best. Okay, so I've placed all of my references into folders here on Photoshop. I have an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper here, and the goal is to use these references and draw the mannequin for each person. So I have a new layer set up for each one of them here, and just got a nice pencil brush, and my goal is to try to capture the pose of the person you have here. First of all, I do want to mention, I don't want you tracing. I want you to try to study what you're seeing here and draw it separately next to it. This shouldn't be a tracing exercise. I'm not looking for perfection. What I want to see is you capturing the pose, capturing the movement, and capturing the correct proportions, because that's really the big thing here. So the first thing I want to start with is something called the line of action. And that is basically just a simple, light line where I'm trying to capture the energy of this pose. It's kind of like my starting base. It's a way for me to get something down the page and my guideline of where this is going to be. Now, it's not going to exactly match this pose here, but remember, I'm trying to capture the energy of this pose. So it doesn't have to, exactly match where she is. For example, one leg's going up, one leg's going down. But I tried to make a line that went kind of like this, kind of goes between her legs to capture the motion of her entire body. So once I have that down, I'm going to start placing down things. I always start with the head, And you want to think about, where is she looking? I want to get just a placement where those eyes are. She's looking down a bit. I'm going to basically create a wireframe that shows just where she's looking. As long as I have an oval for a head and a wireframe, that says a lot about what this character is doing. From there, I'm going to look at, where is the rib cage? We can see there's a rib cage in here, and I want to try to capture that here. And remember, the ribs and the pelvis and the head, they don't move. All the movement comes from the spine. You're just connecting those three things to the spine. But I like to start by drawing these three things first: the rib cage, the pelvis, and the head. Remembering the proportions: 1 head for the head, 1 head for the pelvis, and 1.5 heads for the rib cage itself. So once I have that, I can put my spine in, and then I can start building out from there. Now, where is my shoulders? I'm really paying attention. You're thinking about where the bones are, where the center. You're not thinking about where the outside edges are. Thinking about, where is that bone inside of here. So, her bone's not touching directly against her face. So I'm making sure I have a little bit of space here. And then let's get the other one. This comes a little up. This comes back. And then do my little mitten for my hand. There we go. And then for the legs, you can see here's her pelvis. That hip's like right up in here, and the other one's kind of back behind there. So I'm going to try to capture that here with my pelvis. Here's one hip bone, the other is a little bit behind, and then leg comes out. This should be about 2 heads long. And you have to be careful with certain forms as you're doing this. And this is where it gets really tricky in drawing the figure in general. It's when you have something called foreshortening. And that's where something is bent away from you. So like this leg. If her leg was straight out, it would be much longer than it is. But her knee is actually bent, so it's actually going back. That leg is moving away from us. So even though we know that leg is always 2 heads long, and anytime it's bent away or bent towards us, we get this thing called foreshortening. And that's where it gets tricky. So it doesn't always read as well when it gets to the mannequin, and that's why we want to work on the outside 3-dimensional forms as well. But make sure when this is in foreshortening that it does look shorter in a way. And actually, that's a little bit too short. Okay. Okay, and we'll do the other leg. Making sure it's 2 heads. And really make sure as you're drawing this that there shouldn't be any bend in the arms and legs at all. They should all be perfectly straight. Any bending would come from at the joints. Make sure there is no actual bend in the bones themselves. That could be a little bit straighter than what I had. And then just draw a nice little wedge for her foot. And that's it. That is basically what I am looking for here for our wireframe. I can just tighten this up a bit. Really, these shouldn't take super long. I want you to be accurate and try to capture the pose, but they're not, super tight and detailed. I want you to be sketchy. I want you to be loose and really try to capture that form. That's the most important thing here. Okay, let's do another one. So let's start with my line of action. Okay, now the head's pretty low down here. And she's looking downwards. So, looking at where that line of eyes are. And here is where the front of her face is. And then her torso is tilted this way a bit. Thinking about, you can actually see her ribs right here. This is great when you have, models in skin tight suits. You can actually see where a lot of those bone structures are. So we can draw that rib cage there. We're going to draw her pelvis is at an angle this way. We will connect that with her spine. And then this arm comes out front here. And this is another case of foreshortening where this arm is coming out towards us. So it looks a lot shorter than it is. And it appears to be a much shorter arm, but it's always the same length. This is just when we're dealing with basically perspective and the figure. And then this elbow, comes down from where her eyes are. These are things I'm looking at. I'm trying to compare, where is her eyes in relation to this. And then this arm comes straight up. And there we go. The other arm, she's extending it upwards, so it's actually got a little bit of distance here. Actually, I put it over here. Extending it, and this comes straight up. And then we draw the elbow, and then that comes out from here. Oop, I definitely got too long. Here we go. And there is her hand. Okay, my figure ended up a little bit bigger than her in general. I'm gonna just shrink it a bit so it's a little bit closer in size to her. You want to try to keep these pretty accurate. You can see my pelvis ended up a little bit smaller. That's a little bit better. Okay, from there, let's draw this leg. And I'm really looking at what is the angle of her hips here? What is the angle of her shoulders? This is the stuff I'm trying to figure out while I'm drawing this here. So this hip, this leg comes down straight. There we go. And then this comes straight from here and gives her a little pointy toe. This leg is bent. Actually, this should be a little bit out to the side there. This leg is bent out. And here's her knee, and it comes back behind here. And her foot actually comes out behind. Okay, and there is our dancer. I'm going to do one more here. Okay, so we got a few more foreshortening things that are happening. This leg is a particularly tough one to deal with because it's coming out towards us. So that will be a tricky one. And this arm's going back. So those are things I want to watch out for. Okay, so let's start with my line of action. Here we go. Start with her head. And she's actually looking up. I may actually just give her a bit of a chin so I can help that read. There's the wireframe for her face. Okay, shoulders. Here is her rib cage. It's tilted just a bit this way. And then her pelvis is back here. Sometimes it's tempting to put a lot of space in between the head, the rib cage, and the pelvis, but you got to remember there's only 1/4 of a head distance between them. So don't get too caught up on trying to, put a lot of distance. Okay, from there, we're going to do this leg is coming out here, and then it goes out forward. So the tricky part is, remember this foreshortening thing is trying to figure out how long it is. So when I'm looking where this knee is, and I'm thinking, where is her hip back here? You can see this knee only extends a little bit farther past where that hip is. So don't put this, 2 heads coming all the way out here. Thinking about is just coming past where her hip is there. And that's where I'm going to put that knee. And I'm actually going to draw out the other leg before I put this one in. So I'm going to put that hip bone there. And have this come back. And there is some foreshortening happening here too because it's going away from us. I'm going to draw this to the kneecap, and then here down to the floor, and we can give her foot. And then we'll put this knee, this leg, it's about this angle going downwards. And then her foot comes outward like that. And you'll compare things as you're drawing. Where is this foot compared to bottom of this foot? This one is lower than that. So these are the things I'm looking for as I'm drawing. And when I get to her hand, where's the tips of her fingers line up with the rest of it there? These are the big landmarks that I'm looking for as I'm going along here. Always comparing and contrasting. Where do things line up? Where's this knee compared to where her shoulder is? They actually almost pretty much line up here, just about. So if I draw in my shoulder, I'm going to draw it here, and then have the arm going back. It's foreshortened, so it's going to appear shorter. Not that much of an angle. And this is foreshortened too. And then we got the hand. We can just see a couple little fingers there. And actually it'd be a little bit smaller because it's farther away. And then this hand, this shoulder's kind of sticking out a bit. And remember, make sure you always draw the arms and legs as two separate pieces. Don't just draw one arm and put a hand on it. This is not how it works. You want to think of each separate piece. So I'll draw the upper arm, where the elbow is, and then the lower arm, and then the hand as a separate piece. And there she is. Okay, and that's it. I want you to go through, draw each one of these. Remember, the goal is to capture the pose, capture the movement, and keep correct proportions. That is really what I'm looking for here in this assignment. It doesn't have to be super clean. I want to see sketchy lines. I want to see you trying to figure it out. It's okay if you leave mistakes on there. It's really about you doing your best to try to capture this form. Really, they shouldn't take a whole lot of time. They should only take a few minutes each, but that doesn't mean you're rushing. I want you taking your time and really being careful to best accurately capture the forms that you're working with here.